Hey, what's going on out there? I'm Sean Devine. Hope you all are doing well. Today I've got a new tutorial where we're going to be mixing some trap drums. I use trap loosely. You'll hear the style of the drums, but these are definitely things that are applicable to all types of drums. We're going to make them more impactful, more interesting. We're going to clean some things up and just really make these drum samples jump out in the mix. So I have just a really quick idea. There's very little going on melodically because I want to focus on drums, obviously. But just to give you an idea, and then I'm going to solo all of our drums so you can hear some of the inherent issues. You can hear a lot of noise, and they're just thin samples. They're not very exciting. So here we go. So you can hear in that part when everything's really soloed out, that kick and that snare, man, they're hurting. So we got a lot of work to do, but let's go ahead and dive in. Let's start there with the kick drum. So what we're going to be doing in this tutorial is, once again, we're going to be using one instance of Studio Rack on each of these drum tracks and processing it as a single insert. This is a stereo version of Studio Rack that is placed directly onto the kick. So let's solo that real quick. Okay, so it's got some of the characteristics that we need, and I tried to just kind of loosely pick out some samples the same way that some of you all probably are, and just kind of get the right texture. The first thing we're going to do is I'm going to put on some type of dynamics processing. Let's try maybe the H comp. And we're going to heavily compress this thing so that we can then feed a gate to get rid of some of that noise and just make it a little bit more of a sharp attack on this kick drum. So I'm going to turn this analog knob off for now. And we're going to be doing some heavy compression. So we're going to turn this ratio up quite a bit. And let's turn the threshold back as well. So you can just hear we have a lot more punch right now, but let's adjust the attack. And then I'm also going to turn on the limiter, and then we'll probably turn this down a bit. I'm also going to feed all of this into a limiter. A lot of times with drums, kicks, and snares, when we're pushing things really heavily, you want to go ahead and feed it into a brick wall limiter. We don't want to be, kind of crushing it, but we do want to keep it below 0 just so that we're not wrecking the rest of our dynamics on our stereo bus. So let's just go ahead and put that on here for now, and we'll come back to that. All right, that feels about right for the compressor. Let me adjust the release. All right, so let's hear it without. And with. Just a lot more snappy front end to it. So let's go ahead and keep it moving. Let's go to a C1 gate. I think that's the gate I want. Yeah, let's try that. And we're just going to try and just kind of clean the back end of the tail of this up a little bit. So it's real subtle, but just getting rid of a bit of that noise on the tail. All right, so now let me go ahead, and again, it's just a noisy sample, and I don't really like the tail of it that much, so let's just put maybe a reverb just to kind of cover up whatever's there, give it a little space, and this also will help the kick stand out in the context of the mix a little bit better. So let me go ahead and let's turn the wet dry down here. We don't need that much reverb. Let's just put it there for now, and then we'll take this time down as well. And I'm going to use plate. Plates are really good for drum reverb, creating smaller spaces, things that aren't going to really wash things out, but they just give it a little more character. So that's with is without. Real subtle. In the context of the mix, it's not going to affect the low end. You see that we EQ'd that so that we're not adding that reverb to anything below about 500 or so. Let's hear it in the context of the mix now. So a much more punchy kick. Let's solo the drums here. Obviously, it's quite a bit more punchy and loud than the rest of these samples, but we're going to get to that. But let's just hear it without. And with. So we're definitely going to get that really punchy, impactful trap style kick there. So let's keep it moving. Let's go ahead and head to the snare drum. Once again, we'll put a stereo instance of Studio Rack onto our snare. And for the snare, let's see, what do we have here? Let's just solo it. So it's just a pretty basic 808 style snare, but it's extremely thin. It's a little harsh in the top end, so we want to tame some of that and still get the brightness, still have it to be crisp, but it's just a little bit piercing right now. But first, I'm going to put on the audio track, and we're going to do some more gating on this because there is some noise on the tail once again. So we're just cleaning up some of these drums, and gates can be really helpful to get rid of some of that excessive noise. If you don't use a gate, a lot of times these noises that are left on samples and tracks, they compound and it becomes much more of a problem as you go later into the mix. So you can hear there, just moving the gate up, immediately it makes that sound more snappy and gets rid of a lot of that unwanted noise. Next thing I'm going to do to tame some of the high end is let's use a compressor, but this time let's do some multiband compression. Maybe we'll try the C4. So with this, what we're going to do is we're really focusing more on giving us some low mid sort of body. We're going to accentuate this low mid range. So let's just go ahead and build a little band here. And then we're going to be taming more in this higher section. So let's just move that. So making a couple adjustments to that high end already, we can hear that smoothing out the extreme highs, the harsh stuff. But then let's go ahead and let's just up this, the gain of this band here. So just a little bit more gain, a little bit more compression. And then again, we're just balancing out that high end. So already a much smoother sound. Let's go ahead and move down here. And now we did tame the high end with the C4, but I still think we could go in after the fact now that we've kind of cleaned everything up and given it more balance. And we can give it just a little bit of focused, precise crispness and presence with this VEQ4. So I'm going to go ahead and just slide this up to, let's go about 10K. We'll add a little bit of sheen. Now let's hear in the mix. I'm going to mute these chops for now. Much better. So the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a high pass on the snare. A lot of times, you know, with maybe dubstep and things like that, you want a little bit more low end to your snare drum. I generally don't like a lot of lows or anything really below 250 or so. I'm going to set this at 80 and let's just see if there's a lot going on. Yeah, so you can hear if we go a little too high, we lose some of that body. So I'm going to leave that. And then otherwise, I think we're pretty good. Let me move up to 330 here on our low frequency. Again, just try and give it a bit more body in that section that tends to sound really pleasing for the 808 snare. I'm going to bring the output down so we can get a little bit more of that. All right, so that sounds pretty good in terms of tone. I'm going to add the L1 Plus once again, just we're using this as a brick wall limiter. You're going to see me use this quite a bit on drums as we're pushing them hard. You'll notice in my drum chains presets, I utilize the L1 Plus maximizer really as a safety net. And this is just good practice for those of you who want to get these really impactful drums just to keep you in check. So we're going to just again set that ceiling just below 0. And then let's go ahead and put a nice reverb, probably another plate. And if you're using Waves Gold, the Renaissance reverb is one of the few reverbs in there, but it's one that covers a lot of sonic ground. So we're going to just do a plate, though, once again on this one. And let's see what kind of sound we can get out of it. I'm going to turn the wet dry down. Let's just do maybe a half second here. And I'm going to add a little bit of a pre-delay. Turn the size down some. And then we'll EQ it a bit. There we go. Turn that size down and sounds much smoother. All right, so let's hear that in the context of the mix. Let's turn this down. Ooh. So that's with is without. Let me solo that. Goodness. That's more like it. All right. So kick and snare drums sounding way, way better here. Let's go ahead and move on to the clap now. And let's just hear what we've got first. So let's solo that. Once again, just another pretty basic, very thin 808 clap there. And there is a big tail on it. And I do like generally to have, that kind of tail on a clap, but we're going to create that with a reverb later. So let's just go ahead and once again, we'll use the gate in audio track. So we'll keep enough of the tail to work with, but that should be about right. In terms of EQ, this thing is just sounding, once again, really thin. Let's try and warm this up with some compression first with something kind of vintage, maybe the V comp. Adding a little bit of noise and saturation here. So it is louder, but we added a little bit of thickness and subtle character there. So now let's go ahead and try the C4 once again to warm this up. Maybe take a little bit of this top end off. right, so let's hear it without and with. Let's add a big reverb because we really want this to play off of our snare drum quite a bit. So let's go ahead and unsolo it. All right, so obviously right now a little too much. Very nice. So we got a silky smooth reverb over there. And let's just hear that. So let's make the reverb a little bit longer. Let's hear what we've done so far with the kick, snare, and clap. I'm going to just go ahead and disable all of these instances of Studio Rack. Let's play it back. And with. All right, now we got a little neck snapping going on. Definitely a different league in terms of the impact, the punch, the presence, the cleanness of the samples now, just using our chains that we built here with Studio Rack. So in the next video, we're going to be doing the hi-hats as well as those Vox chops. Those are very rhythmic, so we'll do those as drums as well. I have these this beatbox loop that I had recorded. We'll process that. We've got an old breakbeat as well as a loop texture, and we're going to be layering all this stuff underneath our main groove to really accentuate things and keep things moving along. Hey, if you learned anything in the video, please like, subscribe, and consider sharing, and also hit that notification bell. Otherwise, YouTube might not tell you when I upload videos, even if you're a subscriber. So look forward to seeing you all in the next one. We'll talk to you soon.